Welcome back to this special edition of Hannity. Recovery efforts continue in Central Texas after flash floods over the weekend left more than 100 dead, with over 160 people still missing. But in typical, predictable left-wing fashion, Democrats and their allies in the corrupt media mob wasted no time politicizing this latest tragedy. The left immediately blamed President Trump's budget cuts, false, and Texas Senator Cruz, who was on vacation with his family at the time of the flooding. And he quickly returned to his home state of Texas and has been there to help. Senator Cruz joins us now with more. Senator Cruz, if you'd like to have a word about that, please do. But I'm most interested in hearing an update on the floods and the recovery efforts.
Well, Kellyanne, it's great to be with you. And I will say the state of Texas, we are grieving right now. Our hearts are broken. What happened in the early hours of July 4th was truly devastating. I spent all day on Monday in the hill country in Central Texas, and the floods, in less than an hour, the Guadalupe River rose more than 30 feet. It resulted in utter devastation. Today, the death count is at 119 people that were killed. There are over 165 people who are still missing, and there may be more than that. And where the devastation was the greatest was a girls' camp, Camp Mystic. Camp Mystic is 100 years old. It was founded in 1926. And to date, 27 girls and counselors were killed from the flooding. I will tell you, on Monday, I was at Camp Mystic. I saw the devastation, and it is the most horrible thing I've ever seen. Kellyanne, you know both our girls, Caroline and Catherine. Both our girls went to camp in the hill country, just a few miles away from Camp Mystic. Just 2 weeks ago, a week before this happened, my wife Heidi was there picking up our youngest daughter, Catherine, from camp. I got to say, the parents, the moms and dads in Texas who are grieving beyond that, they dropped their little girl off at camp to have an amazing time, to be canoeing and swimming and doing horseback and archery, and suddenly out of nowhere they're killed in a horrific flood. The pain is being felt all throughout Texas and all throughout the country, and every mom and dad, you're a mom, Kellyanne, this is the ultimate nightmare, and our state is hurting right now.
Senator Cruz, I can hear and see the pain in this interview, and we all share it. We are grieving with the state of Texas and for these families, and also for those who are still missing. And I know the rescue and recovery efforts continue. I don't understand the lack of compassion, the heartlessness, the lack of any kind of dignity, love, thoughts, prayers, a dollar, lend a hand, donate something, contribute, show up and help from your colleagues on the other side of the aisle. Yes, you were on vacation with your family. Good for you, because you worked tirelessly for weeks, if not months, on that big, beautiful bill. And not a single one of the same Democrats now attacking you and President Trump dared vote for that bill that would help. And so the lies have to stop, but the sheer lack of compassion and heartlessness is something I just cannot abide, acknowledge, and accept.
Well, look, there are certainly partisans who, in the face of any natural disaster, they try to politicize it, and they try to attack, whether it's a hurricane, a tornado, or a flood. And so if a hurricane happens, there are people on the left that say the hurricane is Donald Trump's fault. And so very quickly, people in the press and partisan Democrats tried to blame this flood on President Trump. Those arguments were ridiculous. I will say, with some credit to my colleagues in the Senate, in the hours since this happened, I have had an enormous number of my colleagues in the Senate, both Republicans and Democrats, reach out and say, this is horrific, our hearts are breaking, and anything we can do to help Texas, we're there. You know, as the flood was happening, it happened at 3 and 4 in the morning on the 4th of July. Within hours, I was on the phone with Texas Governor Greg Abbott. I was on the phone with Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick. I was on the phone with Nim Kidd, the head of Texas Emergency Management. And then I called President Trump. And I called President Trump at the time he was having dinner in the White House. And I said, Mr. President, it's still early. The facts are still not entirely clear, but this is bad. It looks really, really bad. I said there could be an enormous number of fatalities as we're getting the news reported in. And I said, we need federal resources marshaled and marshaled fully. And the president said, Ted, whatever Texas needs, the answer is yes. We are 100% there. And I got to tell you, look, as horrifying as this was, it was also inspirational. Within hours, we had more than a dozen helicopters in the air, Coast Guard, National Guard, Texas DPS. They performed over 850 high water rescues. When I was there on Monday, I went up with a Coast Guard helicopter. I met with a Coast Guard swimmer, Scott Ruskin. He is credited with 165 rescues. They landed him at Camp Mystic on the highest spot there, a field. There were more than 100 girls there. You had pelting rain, torrential rain. He spent 3.5 hours as they airlifted those girls off of the camp because the roads were all flooded. They put about 15 girls in each helicopter, and the girls were crying. They were terrified. Some of them, many of them were singing hymns. This is a Christian camp.
Yes.
And when I talked to Scott Ruskin, he told me he'd just gotten off the phone with a mom and dad and a little girl who called him, and they said, "You saved our daughter's life." And they said that she was scared out of her mind, and you calmed her, you held her hands, you put her on the helicopter, you held her hand, you said, "You're going to be all right." And Coast Guard swimmers, if you've ever encountered them, they're kind of a mix of Navy SEALs and California surfers. And like Scott Ruskin, he said to the press this week, he said, "I'm just a dude," which is a very Coast Guard swimmer thing to say. But these guys are incredibly fit and courageous. And I got to say, he was moved to tears by the impact of the lives he was saving. We were seeing that over and over and over again as Texans were helping Texans, and we will come through this. My message is a message of hope that we are strong, we are helping each other, we will recover. The parents are grieving, and I just want to ask, thank you, everyone, for lifting up Texas and lifting those parents up in prayer. Keep praying for them, because the burning hole in their heart, it's not going away, but they need to be loved, they need to be hugged, they need a shoulder to cry on, and they need the community, everyone, to come around and support them. And that's what's happening right now, Kellyanne.
Senator Cruz, we join you in all of that. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. And our prayers and thoughts are deep in the heart of Texas. Thank you.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.